What's up, YouTube? I'm replacing the bearings in my QS138 90H today, and also replacing the non-functional temp sensor that hasn't been working for a while. I already took the front cover off. I didn't get a video of that part. I guess it's pretty self-explanatory. Just there's a lot of silicone sealant on here, so it doesn't just come right off. You're gonna have to wedge. I used a razor blade around the edge, and then I used my motor bracket bolted onto the front to get something to grab onto with a 3-jaw puller like this, and then just pushed on the shaft and pressed it off while I was forcing razor blades into the edge, and it came off somewhat easily. But I'm making this video just to show you guys how to replace these if you ever have bad bearings in one of these things. They use standard bearings. The front one is a 6005. So I ride this bike every day, so since I have this motor out doing a mock-up on my new frame, I'm replacing all these just for a good measure. I'd use this 3-jaw puller here to pull the old bearing off, and then I made this little washer thing, put it on top of the new one, and then used a big old socket. Where is it? Right here. Big old socket on there, and just tapped it on with the hammer, rotating this around just to make sure it's going on evenly. You'll feel it bottom out. Don't put too much pressure on it, and definitely don't hammer on the outer race of the bearing, because that will destroy the bearing. Now I'm going to be scraping off this old silicone with a razor blade carefully, not nicking the surface, trying not to get anything inside the motor. And I did have this open before, which is why there's this black silicone on here. I use this. It's the same thing I used last time. This is excellent silicone. I've been using this stuff for years on all different kinds of projects. So, and I'm just putting a real thin layer, real thin coating on here. I'm not running a big fat bead on here because I don't want it to squish inside the motor when I put it together. And just make sure you don't have any crap in there. Slide her on. I'm gonna end up replacing that seal later on. I don't have the right size right now. When you push it on, you're gonna have to get it over that bearing on there, because the bearing is actually press fit to this cover too. Let's put those bolts in there. Start evenly tightening them down. Tighten them just like you would tighten your lug nuts on your car. Do a star pattern. And just evenly tightening them in a star pattern. Skip one, tightening. Skip one, tighten. Skip one, tighten. Skip one, tighten. If you just work your way around just like this, just like you're doing your lug nuts on your car, which is very important considering the bearing is in this. And there's a flange, and this supports the rotor and keeps the rotor from touching the stator. So it needs to be on there perfectly straight and not cocked sideways. See, that one's loose now. That one's loose now. We're slowly working it on there. And there you have it. Just wipe off any excess, if there's any on there. Get that off there. Alright, I'm on to the other side. Already took the little cover off. That's pretty easy to take off. Once you get in here, yours is probably going to be all siliconed in. These screws will probably be covered up. This one's already chipped away because I had this apart before. And if you turn this, because this is the Hall sensor board right here, and once you loosen these screws, this thing can actually, see, it's actually adjustable. You can adjust the phase offset that way. So if you move it around, you don't get it back in the same spot. You're going to have to do the auto learn again on your controller, which you should probably do anyway. Even if you do try to get it back perfect, it's a good chance you're not going to get it back in there just right. That's fine. You're going to have to remove that first to get that out of the way. Because this is, once you take this back cover off, it's held captive by these wires. And these two are for the temp sensor, and these are the Hall sensor wires going back out to this. They go through the inside of the motor and out there. So for these, you actually have to unsolder these if you want to get this out of the way. It kind of sucks. There's no, as you can see, like there's no way to get that fish the board through or anything. There's no connector on here, so you just gotta, I'm replacing that temp sensor anyway, so I'm just gonna cut those. Alright, now that that's out of the way, you're gonna have to remove this 110mm bolt, which is holding this reluctor ring in place. This reluctor ring right here is a magnet. It has multiple poles on it. When this is connected to the rotor of the motor, and this is what your Hall sensors actually read. It's just a 10mm. It's going to try to turn the motor when you unscrew that, so just have to use a little bit of force on it or hold on to the shaft on the other side. Let's get a little screwdriver in there. Just be easy with that because you don't want to have it be slipping on the shaft. That would be a bad thing if this doesn't fit tight on the shaft anymore. You're gonna have problems. So just ease it off there little by little until you can wiggle it a little bit and it'll come right off, just like that. Now that we have that off, you can see the rear bearing 6202, which is conveniently the same size as my wheel bearings. So we're gonna have to pull this back cover off now. See, I've put my motor bracket on there, on the face of the motor after removing the flange bolts, so that I have something to grab onto with this. Now you're just going to want to tension it up a little bit at first. Don't go crazy. And then what I've been doing is just put a razor blade in that crack and just work it in there all the way around. If you have a little trouble getting this off here, this is the way I'm doing it. Just force this little razor blade in here. It's a utility knife blade. And then if you tap it lightly, you can kind of rock it back and forth with the hammer. Don't cut yourself. And once you go all the way around, you can start to see it separating. And you can start cranking on the puller a little bit at a time. You'll see it start to come apart. There it goes. And here's what the other side of the motor looks like. Here's our hall wires. It's just passed through here. 3-phase wires. I made sure to silicone that up pretty good last time. Still looks like it's holding up. And then our temp sensor is conveniently packed down inside the stator windings. And there's my new temp sensor. Use some silicone wires. I just bought an assortment. This one's a 10K. I already shoved it into the hall connector on the far driver and it's showing the right temperature. Now I gotta shove it back in there. Dipped it in some silicone so it'll stick in there. The original one was just kind of shoved in there. I got this back cover set up in my Harbor Freight shop press. If you don't have one of these, there are other ways you can get this bearing out. It's pretty standard stuff. Just look on YouTube, but I have this, so just gonna press it out with the shop press. And here it comes. I'm just pressing the new one in the same way. Put a socket on it. So you're only pressing on the outer race. Slide her on in there. And just like the other side, start scraping this off, clean it up a little bit. Be very careful not to gouge the aluminum if possible. Keeps crap out of the motor. Probably be a good idea to blow it out with shop air. Seal up the plastic grommet. I'm just using the provided nozzle. Put some silicone in there. Some on top of the wires. Don't get it all over the wires because it looks like crap. Slide this thing back in there. Make sure you get some in the corners of this. And there you have it. New bearings in the QS138.